That band, fun. Love them. Just love them. I know, I've been playing them a little bit. Sorry. Out on the Town's that song. It's their bonus track on the CD, and it is really good. Love it. Just absolutely love it. So anyway, thought transmissions. Fun experiment. I'm not joking. I forgot about this for years, and I was using it at the airport. And again, it was just one of those moments where I needed to get someone's attention. I needed to get inside their head for a moment. And so I did. And I learned this technique a long time ago, and I don't remember, honestly, if I read it in a book. I don't remember if it was the teacher I had that actually kind of taught me this. I don't know. I can't remember. It's back around that time, but it's a little fuzzy where it actually came into play. So whenever you're in this situation, I guess I'll spill my story, and I'll kind of say from how I got to this point, and then quickly share it with you guys. It's not too long a video for you. It's just a fun thing to play with. So I was in the restaurant at the airport, right? And I had my laptop out and I was working on stuff, and I had like a couple hour layover. I had plenty of time. So I actually caught up on some of my my emails for Dan RadioStyle. That was fun. And then I was kind of going through a couple other things for work, and I'm like, all right, we got it all resolved, and shut my laptop down, and I'm like, shoot, I got to get my bill. Because I realized, I had to board probably in about 15 minutes. So kind of like, oh, shoot, I need to get this, resolved, give her my card, get all that worked out, and I need to get the heck out of here. So she was way down at the other side of the bar. And I didn't want to yell or anything crazy like that. And plus, I wasn't 100% sure of her name. She told me what it was. I think she said Heather. But I wasn't 100% sure. And it's always fun when you tell someone their name and it's wrong. That's good times. I've done that plenty of times in life. So I'm like, how do I get this attention? It popped into me. I'm like, oh yeah, that cool little thing you used to do back in the day to get someone to look at you. Now, you can use this in other ways, but I'm going to cover it from the way that I learned it and the way I've used it. But the concept, I think, still works the same. So this is where the thought transmission aspect for sure comes into play. Remember, with thought transmissions, whenever you think about an individual, you create an energy with them. It was probably the Celestine Prophecies was part of this too, as far as one of the books. I've got a link below for that book. But that being said, there was the energy bridge that's created, the energy transfer that immediately is created when you think of somebody. Just think of them. When you think of them, their being, their person, you instantly create that. Just bam, happens right then and there. Nothing special has to happen. No incantations, no special mudras or whatever. There's nothing weird you got to do with your fingers and get things to work properly. You think of them. So how do you take advantage of that? And I don't mean that in a bad way, but people can and will use this however they see fit. People always have their own right to create blockers. I've talked about this before. But that being said, the ability to be able to put something into someone's mind that's a little more useful, especially in the case of like what I was trying to do to get their attention. So this is what it's fun to play with for those of you that are going to try this out and about. What you do is you imagine what they're seeing, right? So I imagine, like in the case of the waitress, she was way down at the end of the bar, right? And she was talking to a dude, whatever. What I imagined is what her field of view would look like to pan over and look at me. So what would she experience to see me? And so what I did is I imagined exactly that. I looked and I'm like, all right, from her vantage point, she would kind of spin and then the room would kind of pan and then it would come to me and she would see me down at the end of the bar and I'd be like, hey. And so that's how this is going to play out. And literally, I kid you not, within like seconds of doing this, she turns and looks towards me. And I have my credit card up in the air and she's like, oh yeah, totally. And that's all I needed. I just needed a moment. Now, sure, some could say, well, it was coincidence. I was thinking of her for sure, but this works very well, and especially people that are a little more on the sensitive side, you will find tend to do it quicker. People that are not as sensitive, maybe really tied into something, it might take them a little while, but play with it. I recommend it. You will have fun with this. You will actually get people to look at you, and you'll be like, no way. It is truly from that standpoint where you are imagining through their eyes. And I've used this to manifest romantic encounters, certainly in the past. A lot of times that standpoint of what would they see becomes a very powerful feeling within them. So not only now are you relating an emotion, right? I feel this for this person maybe, right? I'm imagining being with you, but on top of that, I'm also imagining you being with me. And from that standpoint, you actually create kind of a picture in their mind that's very specific rather than some of the things I've talked about where you might pop into their head as a, Dan, right? Like the thought pops in, but not necessarily my image or not necessarily some sort of scene, but maybe just me as a as a person, right? And you're like, oh, Dan, and then you're like, might feel good or feel love or maybe feel frustrated, depending on where you're at. In this case, you're actually trying to push a image into their minds. So for some of you that maybe want to try to spin this into things with a specific person, maybe you're trying to get you into their forefront, you can imagine them seeing you. You can imagine them walking into the room and looking over and seeing you and you smiling at them. You can imagine them perceiving kind of it from the angle you want them to. Now, again, I don't like the whole micro on making things happen, like how it happens. Let it kind of happen the way it should. But in the standpoint of you never talk to this person, they walk by your office every day, and all you're trying to do is manifest them to talk to you, well, then this is a great place to kind of play around with that. If you're trying to get someone's attention in life, this is a great place to play around with that. Again, I don't try to micromanage how the manifestations occur. Many people are not going to, they did not hear what I just said. I'll say it one more time because they're still not going to hear it. You're not supposed to try to micromanage everything. A lot of you are going to, and that's okay. It's okay. You're going to learn, and it's all good. A lot of it's the journey. A lot of it's letting life sort of unfold. That's where a lot of the beauty and magic is. Trying to make your way down the path sometimes can be, frankly, a little frustrating and sometimes not nearly as enjoyable than it can be when you sort of just let go and kind of see where you end up. And believe me, it's scary at first because you don't know, it's unknown. But then things start to kind of play out and you get that level of faith. So anyways, that's kind of off topic. But besides that, so how you can kind of implant, if you will, a thought into someone's mind. It's a very, very powerful technique. I've used it a lot of times and I totally forgot about it until just this weekend. So it worked out really, really well. Hopefully that kind of, helps some of you guys, create these little thought bridges and thought transformations and thought islands and thought whatevers, all sorts of stuff. It's a lot of fun. It's right here on Dan RadioStyle. We're, of course, going out with a great song by the band called Pink. You've probably heard of her a time or two. And this song right here is called What About Us?